Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving right into Chapter 1 of the novel, Sunday. What starts out as your typical run-of-the-mill 11th grade school day, well, it completely turns into a masterclass on social dynamics, character foils, and high-stakes classroom survival. This first chapter brilliantly sets the stage, pulling us immediately into the hallways where simply making it through the daily lectures is, honestly, an absolute adventure in itself.
So we step into this world through our narrator, a 16-year-old guy named Namo. His day kicks off with some classic schoolyard teasing over his incredibly faithful 6-year-old cycle. But right off the bat, Namo is a fascinating protagonist. He tells us he doesn't argue with anyone, and it's not because he's just naturally passive, but because of his physical build. He describes himself as literally the tallest, skinniest, and weakest boy in his class. But here's the kicker. He is fiercely confident in one critical area. He knows that despite his weak body, he's armed with an incredibly strong mind.
Now this sets up an absolutely perfect contrast with his best friend Govind, and I mean, they are polar opposites. While Namo is tall and skinny, Govind has this round face, medium height, and a plumpy body built almost like a wrestler. Govind is that guy who always arrives early and participates in every single study competition. As Namo notes, you'd look at them and think, no way these two hang out. But they share one crucial trait. They are both undeniably excellent in their studies. Just to give you a sense of how this day unfolds, we can see how a normal high school routine quickly escalates into a profound lesson on real-world survival. We go from the morning grounds right into the tension of math class, hitting the absolute terror of chemistry, and finally that glorious release of the final bell. It sounds like a perfectly structured day, right? But as you'll see, chaos is literally hiding in the details.
The real spark of this chapter actually happens during Mr. Prakash's math lecture, which, by the way, is both Namo and Govind's favorite subject. Right in the middle of the lesson, Mr. Prakash spots an empty chair belonging to a regular student named Nitin. When the teacher asks where Nitin is, someone just says he's in the hospital. Mr. Prakash moves on, but Govind leans over to Namo and drops some incredibly dark gossip, revealing the real reason Nitin is absent.
And this gossip reveals the incredibly harsh reality these kids are navigating. According to Govind, Nitin, who is from a Brahmin family, started spending time with a girl from a Rajput family. When the girl's brother caught them just roaming and eating together, a massive inter-caste quarrel erupted. Things escalated so brutally that the brother and his friends physically beat Nitin so badly he ended up in the hospital. It's intense.
What's fascinating here is how our two leads react to this violence. It brilliantly highlights their differing moral compasses. When confronted with this, Namo is just filled with empathetic outrage. He insisted no one has the right to beat someone like that, asking what Nitin's fault could possibly be. Govind, on the other hand, he exhibits a surprisingly cold pragmatism. He essentially blames Nitin, arguing that a student shouldn't waste time on a girl, and explicitly warns Namo to never fall in this inter-caste thing. It's this stark contrast between innate empathy and cold, hard survival logic.
So, the math lecture ends, and Govind actually switches seats to sit next to this guy, Kalu. Now, Kalu is a really interesting wild card in this dynamic. He typically fails his classes, so why is a top student like Govind suddenly sitting with him? Well, simple. Kalu is the muscle. He's short, but literally no one dares touch him because of his bulky arms and veins just popping from his legs. Namo even thinks that if Kalu just flexed, his shirt would rip right open. And suddenly, Govind is whispering intently with him.
Then, the entire vibe of the chapter flips upside down. Enter Krishnakant, or as everyone calls him, KK Sir, the terrifying chemistry teacher. The exact moment he steps into the room, all the laughter and noise just vanish into thin air. Namo describes it as if the chaos was scared away by his very first step. KK Sir announces in this low voice that feels like a war cry that everything they've heard is true. He is the strict teacher, and if they don't do their homework, they won't be able to tolerate him.
But even with this terrifying guy in the room, Govind shows zero fear. He's just turning around, continuing to whisper with Kalu. Namo loses his patience and demands to know what they've been plotting right under a strict teacher's nose. Kalu reveals the secret. Govind has invited him over to his house on Sunday. Govind's dad is away in Canada, and his mom took his brothers to her mother's house. So the house is going to be completely empty, and Govind extends the invitation to Namo too.
And then, pure, unadulterated panic. Right as they finalize these Sunday plans, a voice roars out across the room. "You two, stand up!" KK Sir caught them. Namo's heart thumps, his head spins, and his notoriously thin legs start shaking in absolute terror
as the teacher demands to know their names and why they are disturbing his class. Let's look at how fast this spirals into pure chaos. First, Govind tries to control the situation with a smooth lie, claiming they weren't disturbing the class, just clearing up some doubts. Then Kalu, surprisingly trying to play the hero, chimes in and agrees with Govind. But wow, does this massively backfire. KK Sir turns his total wrath on Kalu, rests a heavy hand on his shoulder, and orders him to go to the staff room to fetch a solid stick for punishment. So Kalu leaves the room, and the fate of Namo and Govind is just hanging in the balance. We all know that universal dread of being put on the spot by a terrifying teacher, right? But in a bizarre twist of fate, KK Sir offers them a lifeline. He tells them he's going to ask one single question. If they get it right, they can sit down without facing the stick. Govind, ever the ambitious student, immediately jumps at the chance, while Namo is silently panicking, wondering what impossible question this guy might ask. The question is simple, but for them, it's devastating. What's the full form of IUPAC? For Namo, his brain just goes completely blank. He surrenders immediately. Govind, though, tries desperately to salvage it. He stumbles through, guessing International Union but after looking around helplessly, he too has to accept total defeat. They fail the trivia, leaving their physical fate entirely in Kalu's incredibly muscular hands.
What follows is a grueling 10 minutes. The entire class sits in dead silence, waiting for Kalu's grand entry with the punishment stick. The tension is so thick and the wait so painfully long that even KK Sir gets tired of it. In sheer frustration, he grabs a wooden duster from the chalkboard, points out that a duster and a stick are both made of wood anyway, and marches directly toward the boys.
But right before disaster strikes, Kalu waltzes back in, without a stick. Let's just appreciate Kalu's brilliant underlying genius here. His survival strategy wasn't to fight or to find the best stick. He intentionally hid in the washroom just long enough to let KK Sir's initial peak rage diffuse. He casually claims he just went to the washroom on the way. It's an absolutely hilarious tactical delay from a guy we thought was only defined by his muscles, and it completely deflates the momentum of the teacher's anger.
KK Sir ignores Kalu's excuse and demands Namo and Govind show their hands. He's literally about to strike Namo with his wooden duster, but then he stops. His eyes fall on Namo's incredibly, almost comically skinny wrists. He pauses, holds the fragile wrist, and asks, "Do you really have muscles in your body or only bone?" KK Sir actually laughs at his own joke. The whole class joins in, and thankfully, this sheer irony, where Namo's biggest physical insecurity becomes his saving grace, prompts the teacher to show mercy. Both boys are spared.
A few minutes later, the most glorious sound in a student's life rings out, the final bell. Namo describes this as the pure sound of freedom. And he doesn't hold back. He says the students grab their bags and bolt out of the classroom like wild animals released from a zoo. The sheer adrenaline of surviving KK Sir's class pushes them right out of the suffocating tension and into the open air.
So just to wrap our heads around this packed first chapter, they successfully survived the terror of KK Sir, discovered that Kalu actually possesses a hilarious tactical genius, and locked in their Sunday plans at Govind's empty house. And honestly, the funniest piece of irony? Namo is so swept up in the gossip and the relief of his friendships that he just walks all the way home. He completely abandons his faithful 6-year-old cycle right there at the school grounds.
We've seen their clashing personalities, their survival instincts, and the really dangerous real-world stuff humming just outside their classroom doors. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer of Chapter 1. With an empty house waiting, it leaves us with one massive burning question. What on earth is going to happen when Sunday actually arrives?